Welcome, everybody. We're here for the Lowell City Council Transportation Subcommittee meeting, May 10th, 2022. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman.
Here.
Council Jeanette.
Here.
Council News.
Here.
Three present.
Great. Thank you very much. Tonight's meeting is on electric vehicle charging progress and opportunities. We do have a short presentation from the Department of Planning and Development. Assistant City Manager Christine McCall is here, along with Mayor Chow, Councilor Mercia. And with that, I will hand it over to Christine and Terry. How are you? Patrick Director is here as well. So, how you doing?
Thank you, Chairman Rourke. I am joined here tonight by Terry Ryan, the Parking Director, and Catherine Moses, our Energy Manager, and we have a brief presentation to sort of recap electrical vehicle charging progress in the city and some opportunities. So I'll hand it over to Catherine.
I apologize.
Not a problem at all. Catherine Moses, Energy Manager for the City of Lowell, and I just have a brief presentation to talk about our progress on implementing EV charging stations and opportunities for the future. Is the presentation
Here it is.
Excellent. Next slide. First, we'll talk about the progress that the City of Lowell has made in adding additional EV charging stations. If you look at the next slide, it shows a little graph that shows that through FY19, we actually only had about 4 charging stations with 8 ports. We more than quadrupled that within the year, and then we added an additional 10 stations and 20 ports this past fiscal year. This has actually been responsible for helping to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as a city. These numbers were taken from the ChargePoint station that calculates all of our different metrics on usage, emissions avoidance, costs, things like that. And as of yesterday, the EV charging stations that we've deployed have helped to avoid 145,260 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions, which is equivalent to planting 3,725 tree seedlings and letting them grow for 10 years. In order to implement these EV charging stations, we've used a couple of different financing options, funding sources. Over half of our charging stations, 16 of the stations, 32 of the ports were installed from incentives from National Grid's electric vehicle charging program. In the first version of this program, they covered the cost of any types of infrastructure upgrades that were needed to enable the charging, as well as provided a discount on the charging equipment itself. Unfortunately, the program is currently fully subscribed. We have also used the EVIP grant, that's the Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, which is a grant from the Department of Environmental Protection. That's how we added the 10 stations and 20 ports at the Hamilton Canal Garage. This program funds 100% of the hardware and installation costs to a maximum of $50,000 per street address for level 1 and level 2 charging. We think there are opportunities in the future to continue to expand on our charging infrastructure, including some interesting funding sources to help us enable further deployment. Starting with the utility programs. As I said previously, the current program is fully subscribed, but the Department of Public Utilities is considering the next phase of the utilities programs. The recommended offerings for National Grid included additional support of level 2 charging like they've done in the past. They also will be looking at DC fast charging and supporting that. They're looking at pole-mounted charging for level 2 charging, enhanced support for low-income and environmental justice populations, including possible DC fast charging hubs, and having a special tariff to help mitigate demand charges. As you can see from the map on the right, a lot of the City of Lowell is incorporated into environmental justice communities, so there might be some significant opportunities within this. And the way that they are looking at the tariff will also make it easier to deploy fast chargers as well, because currently if you utilize fast charging and there wasn't a high utilization of those sort of stations, you can get hit with some significant demand charges. There are also grant programs available through the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure law. Over the next 4 years, the Department of Transportation is going to make $1.25 billion in competitive grants available to install chargers on public roads, at schools, parks, and publicly accessible parking facilities. And priority will be given to rural areas, low and moderate income neighborhoods, and communities with a low ratio of private parking or high ratios of multi-unit dwellings. Again, opportunities where Lowell would be well poised to take advantage of those funds. So other things to consider when we talk about EV charging, as we continue to build out our charging infrastructure, we might also want to look at charging a fee to recover a portion of the electricity used, as well as to support maintenance of our systems. We don't currently charge for the usage at the station, but the enterprise account is responsible for paying the electricity and the maintenance on those. Over the past year, the EV charging stations have resulted in 93,104 kilowatt hours of electricity use, which is about $16,758 in utility charges. These charges are anticipated to increase based on historical trends. Just over the past 3 years alone, demand charges have increased 40%, and electricity delivery charges have increased 24%. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. Councilor Janess?
Sure. One question I had is, do we know what the utilization rate of our current set of chargers is? Are they used, how often are they used, and what's the demand look like right now?
Did you answer?
So they use, today as an example, typically the cars run for just under 3 hours charging. We had 46 cars charging today out of 62 possible situations. Okay, and they do it for about 2.5 hours. But they seem to sit there after they're charged and they just idle. They just hold the station, they don't disconnect. And that's something we have to work on to make those spaces available. The peak time is typically 7 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon. And that's in the past month. And we average about 10 megawatts of electricity every month.
Thank you. How long are cars allowed to charge at any of the stations consecutively at this time?
We have signs that say 4 hours
4
of
hours.
charging.
Okay.
4 hours max, and that's a typical number, because that's what it takes to charge. To get a good charge, we don't really want people staying there all day.
And is there anything currently in motion about level 3 chargers anywhere in the city, whether private enterprise or something the city's doing, or is that just we're waiting on those grant opportunities?
I'm not aware of any level 3.
Okay. Thank you.
I know that there are a couple on commercial properties. I believe that the Hannaford, kind of on the Tewksbury line, has a fast charger, but for what we're looking for in the city right now, there's really not a lot of opportunity to utilize that without there being a significant financial impact to us.
Great. And how does the city's electrical grid look in terms of being able to support more chargers? Is there going to have to be significant upgrades that National Grid is going to have to do to support additional charging infrastructure, or is that already been handled? Do we know?
I believe that they are working on trying to build the grid of the future to be able to handle increased electrification, both of our vehicles and also of our buildings. In terms of the EV charging itself, part of what they cover or they have previously covered in the program is upgrading the electrical service for the areas. Sometimes that involves extra conduit, trenching, different things like that. So I think at this point, for the level of uptake that they've gotten, they believe that they can handle that, but I know they are trying to prepare the grid for the future as well.
We do have 2 locations on the Gorham Street lot that we're looking at. We did receive an EVIP grant for that. And I know National Grid will have to add some electrical support there. And as part of their John Street Garage reconstruction project, electrical upgrades are included in that to add 8 ports. We're going to add 8 ports to the John Street Garage and the AOT Garage.
Thank you. One thing I'd just like to mention is I know that the pole-mounted chargers were addressed in this presentation. I know that Melrose has deployed some of them, and they seem like a great way to efficiently add the infrastructure without all of the groundwork that needs to go into it. They seem like they're much more cost-efficient to deploy. And I know that that was part of a National Grid program, probably this one that's fully subscribed, but I didn't know if there was any opportunity to have that discussion with National Grid to try to get on a list for future deployments or anything like that.
I can say that we do have an ongoing relationship with National Grid. The city has a strategic energy management partnership with them, and so we're able to bring up these kinds of things. I have asked about what they foresee in terms of the future project, and one of the things that they said that they had learned from the pole-mounted pilots that they had done in Melrose is that logistically, it might be easier if the utility actually owns the charging stations, which is okay with us because we just want to ensure that we can build out the infrastructure that our residents and businesses need. But I think that is something that they're interested in finding, cities and towns that are looking for those kinds of options, particularly dense urban areas like Lowell.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for this presentation. I appreciate it. I'm out of questions. I don't know if anyone else has any.
Thank you. Councilman Marcia, anything?
Did you ever hear of that saying that no question is stupid? Well, I'm going to start from the very beginning because I think what I'm going to say personally is stupid, but I'm ignorant of this. I'm ignorant and I want to know, and maybe people watching this might say, gee, I would be afraid to ask that, but I'm not afraid to ask it. It's just, bear with me, please. So let's say that I or anyone watching would like to help with the environment and purchase an electric vehicle. When you purchase an electric vehicle and you know you have to charge it, how much does it cost? Do you have to go somewhere and charge it and pay something? Like, do you? I don't know. Do you go to a charging terminal and plug it in? Let's say that I mean, do I have to pay for that? How does that work? A stupid question.
No, it's not. If you can put a charger at your house, you would charge it at your house overnight while you are at home. You could drive to work, and if your work facility has a charger, you could plug it in there, and either the business, municipality, or you pay for the electricity there also.
So when I charge it, I pay a price.
You would,
for the-
typically, you would pay a price.
So when someone goes into the John Street garage, let's say, and they plug it in, and they can get a maximum of 4 hours, they pay for that.
Not right now. No, they do
They
not
don't
pay.
pay right
It's not
now.
a charge right now.
But, okay, so let's say I'm plugging it in and I went to work downtown and I came out. Is this charger gonna stop after a certain amount of hours, or is it gonna shut off automatically?
It will shut off when you're full, when the charge is full. Right now, that's the way it works. Yes.
Okay, so,
We could program it, I suppose, to shut off at a certain level. I'd have to look at that, but right now it charges the full time that you're plugged into it.
so I wonder if you had one at your house, how much would that cost to set up? We don't know that, right?
I'm
See
sure there
this-
are grants to get, if you're at home, you may
See,
be able to get something.
I'm worried about a whole bunch of people getting electric cars, and right now it's free for wherever you go. And then the government takes over and says, it's going to be $75 to charge your vehicle, but, so I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna happen down the road, and I'm understanding a little bit more than I did before, so that's good. Thank you so much. Thanks for not laughing, because I don't know about it.
It's all new.
Yes, it is to me.
Thank you, Counselor. Excellent. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody to speak?
There are a couple of people on Zoom. Counselor, we're going to have Zaha Zahed. I'm sorry for the mispronouncement.
How you doing? My name's Zuhair. I'm a resident here at Lowell, and I'm also part of 350 Mass. So, actually, when we discussed this, I was going to discuss a few possible funding sources, and it seems like you guys have covered most of those. The EVIP program was one of those ideas, as well as the National Grid Make Ready program. Those were more recently have run out of funding, but they are being replenished. And those will tackle close to 100% on government property of installation costs. One thing I did want to mention about the utility pole mounted chargers is it is a great idea. And just to give you a figure of the savings, in the articles that I was researching, it said about 70% of the costs can be saved from not installing these chargers in the ground, but putting them on poles. Most of the costs associated with these chargers are from installing them in the ground, not the chargers themselves. So being able to save money on digging those, the wiring inside the ground is where we're going to save the most money. And there are a couple more people who want to speak from 350 to discuss this, but I just wanted to lay out, this is an issue that is not very abstract. We're seeing it every day. Just recently, last weekend, there was a EV event here in Lowell, right at Heritage Ice Cream. And we ran into the mayor while we were there, and he mentioned talking to us that this event has gotten so much bigger than the first time he saw it. And we all were discussing that, and we all agreed that it's definitely gotten bigger, and there's a huge demand for EV cars, and there's a lot of people purchasing them now. And because of that, we can see that this is coming. The EV boom is here. This is not a discussion on when this will happen. It is happening. And I think this is a great opportunity with all the funding revenues sources we have, that Lowell can get ahead of the game, and we can help our community become stronger in EV infrastructure. This is a great opportunity, and I don't think we should miss it.
Thank you.
Mohammed? Got
Good evening, everybody. I'm also a resident of Lowell, and I also have some background professionally in terms of EV charging. And I would like to second what Zuhair just mentioned. I think this is a great opportunity for the town of Lowell to show their leadership in sustainability. And in fact, there are grants not just at the EV level for deployment of EV infrastructure, EV charging infrastructure that the city of Lowell has already done. But this is a good time also to look at the DC fast charging options, particularly in public areas, which is going to be very beneficial as the EV adoption picks up. And particularly, my suggestion would be to look at that in conjuncture with deploying solar panels and powering some of the stations with renewable energy sources. And there are also other incentives available for that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Winifred Flint?
Howdy, sorry. I live at 205 10th Street. I wrote a couple notes here. I'm with 350 Mass as well, and we've been looking at some nitty-gritty stuff with respect to EV chargers. And we see that we're going to need 4 different kinds of solutions. We're going to need single family owner occupied chargers. Those are, most people will own that. We're talking like Belvedere or Pawtucketville. We're particularly concerned about multifamily and small rentals, which have high density and limited space. This would be Centerville or the Acre. We're very concerned about that. Then we have large rental developments like Camelot Court. And then we're going to have commercial government. We already kind of have been doing that in downtown. We're very concerned that left to the marketplace, existing unequal advantages will lead to a widening class divisions. Now we got like a chicken and an egg thing going here. If you're in the Acre, you're downtown, not downtown, but if you're in the Acre, you're in Centerville, and let's say it's time to buy a car and you're able to make that $30,000 investment, your concern is going to be, where can you charge it? Because invariably you're living in a multifamily. So we're having situations where people in Belvedere are having no problem putting in their charger, but so they're being able to much more easily do the environmentally right thing. Whereas someone in the Acre is going to have a much harder time given the fact that there's basically no chargers around them at all. This is a tricky problem. We don't want to be like what I call the Protestant bosses back in Ireland. Back when the Protestant bosses were running the factories and building housing, they said, these poor Irish Catholics will never own cars. Make a garage, what for? And now they're living with that problem. So we don't want to have that kind of problem. The other thing is that if low income are stuck with gas cars, they're going to be stuck because there are going to be fewer and fewer people supporting a gasoline infrastructure. So their gas prices are going to go up, repairs going to go up. It's just not going to be a good scene for them. And I just wanted to encourage you, Lowell is not the only city dealing with this. We've got cities across the United States, across Europe, across the world dealing with this. So if we open our eyes and look around, I'm sure we can find some examples of people doing things. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
That's it for the people on Zoom, Council.
Sir?
Thank you, everybody, and thanks to the energy manager and others for that presentation. I just wanted to, take a wider view. This is not really a tech issue. This is a social issue. The chief executive, for instance, Scott Keogh, he's the chief executive of Volkswagen Group of America. He said that, quote, "It's one of the biggest industrial transformations probably in the history of capitalism." He's talking about the conversion of light vehicles, passenger cars and light vehicle trucks, from internal combustion to electric vehicles. The biggest industrial transformation probably in the history of capitalism. From Ford Motor Company, they just have started full production and delivery of their F-150 electric pickup trucks, the most popular vehicle in the United States. Statement from Ford. Ford has officially started full production of the F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck at the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center. That's just outside of Dearborn, Michigan, American-made. The company compares the significance of the moment to the launch of the Ford Model T. And just some statistics. Electric vehicles are projected to account for 45% of the market in 2035. I think these are conservative numbers. So 45% of the market in 2035, up from a forecast of 32% in 2030. I think that's a more significant number. 2030 is like tomorrow, basically. And they're suggesting that 32% of the sales of vehicles, light vehicles in the United States. It will be 32% in 2030. That means that if you stand on the corner, every third vehicle that goes by will be an electric car. That's by 2030. That, these are not, our organization's crazy numbers. This is from a very conservative business group that does these projections, for a living. That's how they make their money, by being accurate. So overall, Americans bought 14.9 million light vehicles in 2020, which is going to keep going. Last year, EV sales were 4%. Last year, they were 4% of that 15 million. If it's 32% in 2030, that's a lot of electric vehicles. The other folks who presented here tonight made really good arguments, especially about the equity issue. But I just want to say that, Lowell has got to turn its head around and face the future. Lowell tends to, and one of the things I love about Lowell is its history. But Lowell's got to be a part of the 21st century. Now, there was some mention here earlier of DC fast charging. That's level 3 charging. Level 3 chargers, it's kind of interesting because everybody knows how to do it. Tesla's been doing it for 10 years. It's a turnkey operation. Everybody knows how to do that. There's no thorny questions about how do we do this in densely populated areas where there's no parking, like back central, where people now run their car up on the sidewalk, etc. DC fast charging facilities is a different story because they go in areas that are high traffic, that are generally commercial or like shopping centers. The closest one I can think of is on 495 South, or as you headed toward Worcester. There's one in a big shopping center there, big Tesla installation, level 3 in that big shopping center. Why do they do that? It's because it's an attraction. It attracts people to that shopping center. City of Lowell owns property now that's used as parking lots, right? Surface parking lots, like behind the National Park National Park office over there. We've just broken ground apparently on some new construction there in the Hamilton district. I guess it's another garage. My point is that there's perfect locations that the city of Lowell has to put in a really, really impressive DC fast charging system. That would do wonders for downtown development. As soon as you have a facility like that, an attraction like that, and it's running, it's up and operable, that location appears on the dashboard of every electric vehicle in the country as a place to go to get your car charged. It's an attraction. It would be a huge boon for downtown businesses, for the National Park Service, for the Hamilton Development District. We've got an opportunity to do this. The funds are there. We should think big here. Look to the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grove?
Jonathan Grossman, 83 Varnum Ave. Just to summarize, electric vehicles are happening. That's a good thing. The climate crisis is here, but we can still avoid the worst impacts of it if we make the switch. Let's get Lowell ready for them. We're off to a good start, but there's a lot left to do. And let's make sure as we do it, that we do it equitably and don't leave anybody behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank Ms. Mose, Mr. Ryan, Ms. McCall, the speakers, that Zoom in as well as the speakers is here for their advocacies on these areas. We agree that electric car is an energy efficient. It's reduced emission. It's good for the environment, and I am very excited with the news that we're heading that direction. At the same time, I'm also concerned as well, given the rise of a number of people who are interested in electric car, right, and giving the shorter supply that we have in terms of the charging station. But also hopeful in the sense that through Ms. Moses working with our partner, National Grid, and or other federal state funding to build more of electric the charger, the EV charging. I think with regard to the costs associated with what we have done in the past couple of years, we can't sustain that. Mr. Ryan will agree that at some point you need to charge, because not only that we city pay the electricity for those 4-hour charging, but also paying maintenance on those machines as well. So I think we need to start quickly and do it in a fair and equitable way in terms of charging, and maybe add more go down the road for that the EV charging because of the rise in interest in buying electric car. I think maybe the city at some point soon, starting maybe our managers can start driving one soon. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited about the future.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else from anybody? I think it was very informational. Thank you for the presentation. I certainly learned a lot in the past 40 minutes about it. And as Councilor Noon said, our new city manager has extensive knowledge in this area, being a chairman of the Technology Information Committee over at the State House for the past, I think, 4 or 5 terms. So his expertise will be utilized as well. And just look forward to probably holding a couple more of these meetings in the future to discuss the progress going forward. So just to your quick little side thing there, the new development over at Hamilton Canal is a privately owned garage, but we were told there will be a couple of charging stations in that garage across the courthouse, so it's a win. So that being said, is there not anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Clerk?
Second by.
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you.